Hello, hello. It's Nadine here, and I'm here with this week's episode of Life, Health, and the Universe. And today I'm joined by Kasia Dodd. Your full name, Katarzyna. Katarzyna?
Uh, Katarzyna, yes, almost
Katarzyna,
perfect.
Katarzyna.
Yes,
Welcome. Great to have you here.
thank you for
Minor
inviting me.
technical hitch, but we're okay now, so that's great. So let me do a quick intro of you, Cassia, and then I'll hand over to you. You can intro yourself and fill in the gaps that I've missed, and then we'll get stuck into our chat. So you originate from Krakow, Poland, but
Yes,
currently living in the United States. And you have 16 years as a clinical psychologist and dedicated your life to understanding the human psyche. That is
yes,
definitely a lifelong pursuit, isn't it?
it is.
Trying to understand ourselves and other people and how it all fits together. Yeah, looking forward to talking about these things. You're the founder of Inherence LLC, which I'm sure you'll be able to tell us more about. And through your company, you pioneered EFT, which is emotional freedom technique in Poland, I believe. Is that correct?
Yes, that's true. Yes, yes,
One of
yes,
your accolades. And more recently, you have released a book. You are the dream of the universe, moving towards the
yes,
inner adult as a further step in the evolution of self awareness.
yes,
It's a pretty meaty title.
yes, it is.
So welcome to the podcast. It's really great to have you here. I'm looking forward to our conversation. We kind of had a little brief talk before we hit record, so we've got some touch points to get started. But before we do you want to fill in all those gaps and tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yes, so thank you so much for inviting me. As you mentioned, I'm originally from Poland and I lived in the US for 20 years now or so. And I am a clinical psychologist, but I am educated and licensed in Poland and European Union. So I'm having all my clients over there in Europe, but I'm living in the U.S. When I was a little kid, I was probably 6, 7, or 8 in that range. I had this experience of having this pain and compassion for poor children in my neighborhood. There was a family of gypsies living close to us, and they were really poor. And I remember this was my first experience when I realized that those children in that family, they are not as lucky as me. You know, they were walking around dirty and hungry sometimes, and I felt this pain inside, and it was painful that there are other kids who don't have what I have. And I remember this first experience when I thought, oh my gosh, I really want to invite this little gypsy girl to my house, and I want to give her a good bath with bubble, and I want to give her all my clothes I have because I want her to be happy as me. And I think it was the first time when I felt, what I was here for on this earth, if I can say that, because since that, it never stopped. And then I remember I went to a hospital when I was 8. I had a sunstroke. It was a kind of serious condition. And so they took me to the hospital and I spent two weeks in that hospital. And my mom visited me every day and they did a bunch of tests and then I had to take medications for 2 years. But I remember there was another moment. I remember when I was leaving the hospital after 2 weeks and I was walking with my mom through the parking lot, and I stopped, and I remember I turned and looked at the hospital, and I talked to my mom. Mom, I will come back one day to this place, and I will help everybody to get better. So when I was a little kid, I already knew that it was my passion, kind of, and so since then, whatever I did, education and all other things and research I did, it was all for that purpose, to work with people and to work in this area. At the beginning, I wanted to be a doctor because when you're 8, all you know is doctors in the hospital. You don't know anything more. But when I got older, I don't know. It's not the medicine, the hard medicine. I'm just interested more in the human mind and human soul. So I got my degree in clinical psychology, and then in the US, I got another master degree in theology, because it was kind of like a soul thing more. And and I started doing therapy with people. And on the way, I I encountered this technique, this method, emotional freedom techniques, which is EFT. And it just, oh my gosh, I did it first time on myself. And I mean, it was funny how it looked. But then when I did it on myself and I suddenly saw tears, I mean, felt tears pouring on my cheeks, down my cheeks. And oh my gosh, this is something else here going on. So I started learning the EFT technique. It was in 2005. And I think it was 2006 or 7 when I started working with people using this technique. And since then, I've been doing it all, every day when I work with people, I do EFT, and it's been so many years, and I still have a jaw drop, when I see the results, when people do the EFT. So that's briefly about my interests, and it never
Wow.
stops. I think it's my calling, my mission. I don't know how you call it, but I just can't stop. The exploring, the going deeper and deeper and deeper. I do it every day. I do it at night. I do it when I watch TV. It's just the observer is all the time there, and it just wants to understand and know and go deeper in the structure of awareness and know even more.
Wow. Well, you've given us a whole bunch of things to talk about, which is great. Thank you for the intro. Before we go on, can we talk a little bit about EFT? Because I'm sure that some
Yes.
people have probably heard of it, emotional freedom technique, but some may not have. And
Mhm.
if you don't, I guess for the listeners, if they have, they may have heard of tapping, right? Is that the
Yes.
other? Yeah. So
Yes.
tapping, you may have even seen people do it. I've seen videos of people doing it online and like on Instagram and that sort of thing. I've had a little bit of exposure to it, but I haven't ever practiced it myself.
Mhm.
Um, so I'd be interested to hear a little bit more about what it is, how you use it, and also how you use it when you're in relation to someone else, like guiding someone else through the techniques. Because I've always felt that it's something that you do alone,
Mm.
or that you
Okay,
learn
you
to
can
do.
do it alone.
Yes.
Yes, you can do it alone, but when you work with other person, it's always it's always better to talk about those things,
Mm.
any emotional problems, to people. When you have the mirror, the observer that can see something that you can see yourself. So yes, you can do EFT with others, and I do it all the time. So so for those people who don't know what it is, they call it also psychological acupuncture or
Okay.
psychological acupressure, because the method uses some of the acupressure or acupuncture points at the end of meridians or the beginning of meridians, depends, how you look at it. And you tap those points. So you don't put needles here, you don't press those points, you just tap with your own fingers. And by tapping, you put kind of vibration in those meridians. So the vibration, goes through the meridians, through the nervous system, and um, unblocks any stuck emotions or any stuck energies that are in the body. And those stuck things can be there even for years, since you were 1 year old, and it's stuck somewhere in your body, and you have this emotional response and or some symptoms in the body when you have emotional response, and it's there all the time. And when you start tapping, it just kind of dissolves and you feel better instantly, almost instantly. I'm saying, when you do the exercise, EFT exercise, you start feeling better during doing the exercise. You don't have to wait long for results. So how it works, it's not only the tapping, you also say out loud sentences. And those sentences usually, I mean, they're supposed to describe the problem in words. They're supposed to focus your mind on the problem. So when the mind is focused, and then you tap the points, there's some interesting synchronization going on in the brain. So you focus, you tap, and something happens in the brain. Something, it's like the emotion meets the reason, and suddenly something, goes and
Wow.
releases, and you feel better, and you feel lighter, and you feel more optimistic. And so, when trauma kind of gets stuck in the system, what happens is that all three parts of brain, the one that is responsible for your physiology, the one that is responsible for emotional processing, and the part that is responsible for the logical thinking, all three parts get kind of frozen in the trauma, all three parts. So then when we work on releasing trauma, you have to address all three parts at the same time. That's the key. So, when you only talk about problems, you only stimulate, the intellectual part, and it triggers the emotional part. But it's not synchronizing, because you're not stimulating the body, and you don't stimulate the emotional part, you're just stimulating the intellectual part. So EFT does that, because when you tap those points, you're stimulating the body. When you pronounce those the logical words, you're stimulating the intellectual part. And in the middle, there is emotion that gets, activated. And then at the same time, all three parts of brain get active, and that's how the trauma is released. So it's genius, the EFT, and it's so simple because it's completely natural. There's no
Yeah.
chemicals involved or anything else. You just take your fingers, you tap the points, you know what to do, and it goes. And
Wow.
yeah, so Gary Craig, who is the founder or the inventor of EFT, he says there's tapping and there's the art of delivery. So tapping is simple, 5-year-old can do the tapping, but how you how you focus your brain on the problem, how you formulate the sentences, how tuned your brain is into the problem you're trying to work on, that's the art of delivery. And the more you are tuned, precise, and address all the aspects, the better results you have. So sometimes when you work by yourself, it may be harder, but when you work with a therapist or somebody who has some background in understanding trauma and processes in the brain, then just the delivery of the EFT can be better, can be more, more, how to say it, just more whole, if I can
More,
say it.
yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
clear, like more specific, I
Mm-hmm.
guess, because I think that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I guess when we're experiencing some kind of trauma, it's like there are layers of it, right? And
Mm-hmm. Yes.
the external thing that we think
Mm-hmm.
is it
Yes.
isn't necessarily the, yeah, you get deep,
Yes. Yes.
because
Yes.
then it, yeah, yeah.
The deeper you dig, and access your, your awareness, the deeper the EFT can be delivered.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
When you are doing EFT and using it in
Mm-hmm.
your sessions with a client, when they have that kind of release of emotion, is it then like that's it, fixed, or is it something you
Depends.
have to return to?
It depends. When you do something very specific, for example, there's a specific event in your past. Let's say you had a car accident. So it's like a one-time event. It was traumatic, it was shocking, and it's stuck in your body. But this is a simple event. So usually, in one session, when you take all the aspects of that accident, that event, usually it's gone and you're done. But when we are dealing with a personality issue, for example, self-esteem or relationship with parents that was not so good when you were a child, there are many layers of it. It's not just a simple event. You know, it's on emotional level, it's on the body level, it's on your identity level, it's on your personality level. So it will be more work, and so there will be more aspects to address. Also, I mean, that's how I find it out. Find with people that when we do EFT on something like relation with somebody else or self-esteem, and we do one EFT, you probably have to go multiple times to this one exercise to sync. So it all syncs, deep in you, in your awareness. Yeah. So that's the difference.
It would be pretty tricky as well, I guess, because when we've been experiencing a thought pattern for a long period of time,
Yeah.
it almost becomes part of who you are, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
there's got to be a process of allowing it
Yes.
to like literally let go of it and not
Yes.
kind of go, well, who am I if I don't have this thing?
Yes, exactly. And also, you are very right, because the deeper it is and the more personal it is, the more resistance to
Mm,
release you have to release the, yeah. So sometimes you have to really be a kind of like an acrobat to go from, all different sides to approach this belief about, how it's like a recipe for life almost. So if you try to release it, the whole structure is terrifying. Okay, how am I going to live now if I don't have this recipe for life? I know it's dysfunctional, it brings me grief, but I don't know how to live without it. And there's a whole,
yeah, wow.
mm-hmm.
Wow. And so you're still working as a psychotherapist, I assume, and working with
Yes,
clients
yes,
and using EFT in your practice.
I do. I
And one
just
of
did it
your
today. Yes.
yeah,
Mhm.
okay. And one of and your I don't know if this is correct, but I think that one of your main areas of specialization is working with the inner child.
Well,
It's
uh,
a little bit deep,
mhm.
isn't it? And I think like just like getting to the root cause of someone's trauma or how they're feeling has layers. So does that idea of the inner child. Is it? Is
Yes.
it? Am I wrong in saying that that's an area of specialization, or
Well, you are
was
not
your
wrong, but I
reaction
have
more
to
like,
no.
"Oh shit, this is a big topic. I don't know if we've got time."
No, we do. But I mean, you are right, but I have to add to it.
Yes.
So,
Okay.
so uh, working with clients and every client when I work with is like entering a different universe, like a different world, and I'm trying to be so attentive and be 100% an observer and gather as much understanding as I can. So after working years with clients, I started seeing some patterns and some rules, how those things work. Even if the people are different and they have different stories, I started noticing some fundamental constant, that there is something at the bottom that no matter how it looks on outside, there's the same mechanisms underneath. So over years I started having this more and more clear picture of what it is. And suddenly it came to me that what I'm seeing is what people call inner child, but somehow it was incomplete. It's like, okay, I understand what I'm seeing and I understand what people are saying, but there is this feeling in my stomach that it's telling me there is more to it. So I was listening to this feeling, And then I realized that there's not only an inner child inside, but also there's the inner parent inside. That actually the structure of awareness that every one of us has two components and not only one. And everybody's talking about the inner child and the wounded inner child, and the child needs to be healed and everything. And I'm looking at this inner child and it's just fine. It has absolutely no problem. There's no wounds. There's no trauma in the child, in the inner child. So what is going on? So then, even observing more and more, I realized that what has a problem is the inner parent structure. That the inner child is just a child ready to play with life, always happy, always enthusiastic, always, it's a pure power that it's ready to live, but it needs a parent to guide it through life. And the inner parent, how I saw it, the inner parent is the image of the child, of the inner child. So there's an inner child that is pure power, and the inner parent is the image of the child. And the image, all the beliefs about the inner child, all the traumas, all the beliefs, I think it's the best word. And so it's projected on that inner child from the inner parent. That's why the child cannot function fully, because if there's a belief about this inner child, oh, you're just not good enough, oh, you can't do this, you can't do that. So then the child says, okay, mom, I'll sit here and I'll do nothing in a way. So it's not it's technically, mechanically, it's not the inner child that has a problem. What the problem is that there's no healthy and well-functioning inner parent. The moment when the inner parent shows up, the child is ready to play. There's nothing to be healed in the child. And so then when I finally saw it, I'm seeing this inner child is a perfect structure. And all the convictions, people have about wounded inner child, it's just a projection from the inner parent structure. It's not real, even if it feels real.
Wow.
So then, analyzing it more and observing and working and doing EFT with people and everything, I saw the structure of the inner parent, that it's actually the beliefs that are copied from what the real parents tell us, when we are kids. So the child, when it's born, it doesn't have the inner parent structure yet. It's just it needs to form it, the self-esteem, the beliefs about self and everything. So it's copying, it's getting the information from the environment, from parents, from culture, from society, from whatever it is, from religion, whatever we have. So, and then it's built in the structure of the inner parent. And that's how parents and society treated us when we were kids. That's how we treat ourselves later in life. The inner parent treats, the structure of inner parent treats us inside like we were treated as kids. It's just a copy of the beliefs. So when we work with the inner parent, and it suddenly, the inner parent drops all those beliefs, suddenly there is a perfect inner child ready to play, and there's not a problem with the child itself. It's really a projection. So then when I explained to people this way of seeing it, just understanding that the child has no problem, it's healing already. Because suddenly they see, wow, I have this incredible power in me, that it's intact. I just don't know how to manage it because I have wrong beliefs about it. And that itself, takes you out from the victim feeling.
Okay, well, that's pretty cool. So would you say, with all of that's making complete sense, like I understand what you're saying, but would you, when you talk about the inner child, is it an idea? Do you know what I mean? or is it when you talk about like the injured or the trauma, you know, the inner child and trauma,
Mm-hmm.
or healing the inner child, is it actually
Mm-hmm.
our experience? That inner
The inner
child, it's
child.
like, yeah, the inner child, is it like who we were, who we once were, or is it more of a concept, an idea of how we feel?
Well, I think, when I finally saw what the inner child is, it's just the essence. It's
Mm,
the living essence.
I love that.
It's the yeah, it's pure power. It's a
Life
living thing.
force.
It's not a concept.
Mm,
Yeah, it's just a
love
name we
that.
give to it, so we kind of conceptually
Understand.
understand.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes, but it's pure power. I'm
Oh,
saying the
wow.
power is so huge that if you touch it with a finger, it will cut off your hand up to your arm because it's so powerful.
Wow.
I've
And
seen
so we
it.
want to be tapping into that.
Yes,
Mm.
yes,
It's
yes.
interesting. I heard once a while ago, like about treating your inner child as a, you know, as a human, as you would your own children. Like you don't want any harm to come to them. When, you know, for me, I don't want any harm to come to my own children. Like I care for them,
Mm-hmm.
I nurture them. Obviously, they'll
Yes,
have their own experience and receive that
yes.
in whatever way they're meant to.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but we don't do that, do we?
We
We
don't
don't.
do.
We don't care for our inner child
Mm.
as we would our own, like our negative self-talk and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yes.
we can
Well, we can
with
and
the
we should,
EFT.
with EFT also, because, in the book, I'm trying to explain to people that uh, the only real thing we have is the relationship with the own deeper self, which is the inner child, in essence, deeper self, inner child, to me, it's all the same, or your soul. Um, so, so that's the only real thing that we have. And the relationship we have with this inner deeper self, it's the basis for every other relationship in life we have with our own children, with husbands and wives, with other people, with life, with nature, with society, with anything. This is the base. So whatever is going on inside in this relationship with the self will reflect in the external life, whatever we do. And many times we try to do it backwards. So something doesn't work in our life and we're trying to fix it. And sometimes it works to some degree. But if it's not fixed or changed at the same time on the level from which it originated, it will be back to the same. So even if you change the external circumstances because you don't like something, if it's not changed on the deeper self, on the deeper self level, you will recreate the same circumstances, even if it's different, scenario outside. So you can't cheat it, I mean, you can't really ignore it, cheat it, or say that, you beat the system. It's just simple. Mm-hmm.
I've got a couple of questions around that. Firstly, have you had your own personal journey of healing? When you were seeing this um, in your clients, this, you know,
Mm-hmm.
what is it? And you're trying to get to the bottom of what is it? What is it? Did you see something happening in yourself as well?
Yes, all the time. And by the way, doing EFT with people, it's amazing because when I do EFT with people during the session, I tap on myself and I say those sentences out loud, and they just tap on themselves and repeat after me. So so I did probably billions of EFTs on myself that were not kind of mine, but I am sure that I released tons of things that I was not even aware of because I was doing it for people, but I was doing it physically on myself. So it's like I'm doing it on myself. So yes. And when I do EFT with people during the session, even if I work sometimes 6-7 hours a day, I should be tired. I actually am more energized after I finish work. I can wake up tired and go to work like, okay, let's start the sessions. And then after seven hours of work, suddenly I'm so energized, I want to jump mountains. Because the EFT tapping, when I do it with people for a few hours during the day, it's amazing. So,
Wow.
but yes, but the exploration of the deepest, darkest, it's my passion. So sometimes I discover something by accident when I work with people, but I do it on my own almost every day. And I actually have a research partner. She's my close friend who lives in Poland, and we both have kind of abilities to see things, and we've been developing those abilities to over years. And this Sunday we are going to meet again. We do it regularly, and we just dive, deeply in so-called expanded states of awareness, and we have intention to go and see and understand and find and release. And sometimes we go through hell because we encounter some even collective trauma that is really heavy. And it's painful, and it's not pleasant, but we are trained by now to just not take it personally, just be with it, and then it gets released. So even if I don't, have some external traumas going on affecting me, I do it on purpose. I go in the darkest corners because my passion is to uncover as much as possible and understand and release and put some light in there.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Do you use EFT when you're doing that process, or is it a different
No,
process?
no, I don't do EFT. I stopped doing EFT on myself personally, probably after 2-3 years after I learned EFT. But I do it with people. So because I do it with people, probably I don't have to do it anymore on myself. But when we meet with my friend, we just dive, and we just go with the flow, whatever is going on. And from our meetings and this research, we invented kind of, or discovered a process that we called inherence. That's our process, yes. So this is a process of working with the inner child and inner parent. We don't call it during the process those names are only for the book purposes, for the intellectual mind. But when we do it practically on the feeling level, there are certain steps you go through, and you heal the inner parent structure by doing certain things during the process. So then at the end you reconnect with the power, which is the inner child. And people describe it like going in a different dimension with totally different vibes there, because it's really amazing. We've
Wow.
been working
Yeah.
on it for 7 years. Yeah.
So do
This
you
process.
take other people through that process, or do you do
Yes.
that? Okay.
Yes.
In
And
what
we
kind
also
of in what kind of structure do you do that? In a group setting, or?
we did both. After we were ready to give it to people, we did 3 tests workshops online on Zoom, and every workshop, every group was around 35, 38 people. So we were leading them through the process, and the result was really, really, really amazing in all 3 groups. But most of the time we do it individually during sessions in one-on-one. But we are
Okay.
going back to groups because we did it 2 years ago, and we will be going back to groups, because even therapists, who attended the workshop, they were asking if we can teach them this as a tool to work with people, because it's pretty cool.
Wow. Oh, that sounds very cool. Yeah.
Mhm.
Um, we're gonna put some. We're not at the end yet, but I'm just gonna just say we'll put some links in for. So if you've got anywhere that we can direct people for that, then we
Okay.
can
Mhm.
certainly do that. I'd definitely love to find out more about it.
Mhm.
Um, what else was I going to say? Ah, when so do people come to you mostly for the inherence
No, they
process
mostly
now?
come. Not yet, because I'm not.
Okay.
It's been not advertised yet, or
Oh,
yeah.
is this
It's
the big
just
reveal?
Well, I talk about it in the book. So the book has been published. It got published last January. It's the second edition of the book because the first one I did it on my own and I didn't do a good job. So then I asked some professionals to help me with the second edition, and I talk a little bit about inherence in this fixed edition. So it's just been around out just for a little bit. But mostly people come to me as a psychologist because they want to work on something, and then I introduce them to EFT first. And then when they are ready, we do inherence when they are interested in it. Because when I do inherence with people, we also address some generational trauma, because this is also something interesting, in our system. So it's good to touch on that too. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us a little bit about generational trauma, how it might show up for people?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and is it like something that's kind of felt in the body rather than, we saw something bad happen to our grandparents and they told us a story, but is it something that goes much further than that?
Yeah. Yeah, first I learned about this generational trauma, that it exists at all. It was through Peak States of Consciousness. This is a group of people who do some research on the structure of awareness, and I learned that something like this exists. And I worked with those people for 2 years. Then I left, and so generational trauma, how they talk about it and how I do it with people, how I see it too, is something that feels really, really deep and personal. It's like almost on the level of your identity. And also I would say, people say, oh, it's a part of my character. I had it already when I was 3. So today or yesterday, I had a session with a person, and she said, I felt this already when I was 3, and I didn't get it from my parents. I didn't learn it. I already knew I had this kind of emotional problem. So we bring things, to this world in the generational from the generational inheritance. And it's like we inherit the color of your eyes and color of your hair and the shape of your bones and all these features. We also inherit the so-called character. Every child has a character. It's also inherited. It gets shaped later, like your body gets shaped later through being raised and all that. But we come to this world with presets of how we behave, how we feel, how we relate to the world, and it's all from generations. And we come, with good generational patterns that are, and we like them, but some of them are traumatized, never healed, never released in the line of generations, and we just come with it, and it's our time to try to release it so we don't pass it to next generation. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah.
I've said wow a lot. With all the things that you've said, I'm like, wow. All right, let's talk about your book. So let's just go with the title to start with. Let's break down the title. You are the dream of the universe.
Yes.
Part one of the title.
Yes.
What does that mean for you?
It means, it came to me. I was participating in a online workshop, and we had some exercises to do, some reflections, some meditations, and so one day I kind of went in with the exercise that I was supposed to do, and I saw this relation between me and those big dreams, and the dreams were kind of like on the horizon, in the space, and I said, oh, this is like the universe, that's what I thought, and then I saw a relation between me and those dreams, and it's like, oh my gosh, there's something out there. I call it my dream, but actually whatever is there, it dreamt me. It was dreaming about me, and then I came to existence, and now I'm dreaming. And it was a kind of weird process, you know. And this phrase, you know, appeared. You are the dream of the universe. And I said, man, that would be a really nice title for a book.
Oh, cool.
And yes, at that time, I was not thinking about writing a book yet. I mean, clients were asking me, oh, you should write, you know, those things that you are talking about. You should write it in a book because it's so cool. I want to read about it. So I had somewhere in the back of my head that maybe one day I would write the book. But at that time, when the title came, I was not writing the book yet. But then when I started, I thought, man, this is a really good title. Yes, so
Yeah.
that's how it appeared.
Yeah, I love it. Um, okay, and then the next part two of the
Yes.
title, moving
Mm-hmm.
towards the inner adult as a further step in the evolution of self-awareness. I think
Mm-hmm.
you've covered off a fair
Yes,
bit of that.
but I will mention the third inner because it was inner child, inner parent, and the
Mm.
subtitle there's an inner adult.
Ah.
Uh, yeah. So that was my understanding of those mechanics. And so the inner child is the essence, right? It's the power, it's your soul, it's, you know, the enthusiasm for life and joy and love and everything. The inner parent is the form that helps the essence to be formed in life, shaped into something really beautiful. And then when those two structures, those two parts of the structure, the inner child and inner parent, are really connected, united, when they are one, and there's no trauma, no bad beliefs about anything, you're just like whole and one, then I saw that you become an inner adult, that there's an inner adult. It's like another structure. It's like it's a totally different, you know, game now when because there's no inner child and inner parent anymore. It's so one that it becomes inner adult. And now you are this real observer, always loving, always calm, always distant to distant, you know, nicely distant to everything. Nothing catches you, nothing affects you in a bad way. Um, and the processes are totally different. You're not emotional anymore. The emotions start playing totally different role in the system. They are not those inner child, you know, emotions, you know, they are not regulated. They kind of ascend to another level. So that's the inner adult. And to me, I understand it that way, that it's really the next level of evolution of self-awareness when we all become inner adults, because we are adults in the body, but inside we are not inner adults. No, when
No.
you look what's going on in humanity, we are not inner adults
No.
yet. We
No.
are going there, but we are not. We have to fix the inner parent structure because the inner parent is failing and failing and failing again. It has problems. Once we fix it and the inner child is really happy and ready to play with life and feels safe, then we enter the another's, you know, there's I see it the inner adult when we reach the inner adult level, there is no lack, no crime, no greed, no fear of anything happening. There's no fight for anything or with anything because it's totally different level of processing this whole world.
Mm. And on that topic, do you feel like a there's been a shift, like there's a bigger movement towards that happening, like your role and what you're doing is obviously playing a part because you're helping people to find that inner adult, to make those connections between the inner child and the inner parent,
Mm-hmm.
and make it
Yes.
coherent.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Yes.
feel that your work is really for that greater purpose of helping to heal humanity?
Well, I hope so that it's I'm on the on that wavelength.
Mm.
Yes, and you know, when something is happening in the collective, then certain individuals come up with things like this. So I feel like I'm in the service of the collective, and I was able to see and understand things, and now I can offer it to people so they can take it or not. You know, it's their choice. Yes, and I mean, we have a lot of problems in the world. We can see, all over the world. But on the other hand, when you look at some people who are waking up, there are more and more of those people. And, in the mainstream media, except craziness that we have, you also hear more and more about being authentic. I see this more and more, and people crave it more and more because they feel that those facades, that we were taught to create for the world. So we please the world. So when they look at us, they see us perfect and they admire us. Those things are crumbling more and more because people don't want it anymore. It's tiring. So they want to be authentic. They want to be who they are, and they want to be just okay with it, which causes some other problems because sometimes the need I think the need to be authentic goes the wrong way, but still there is this trend of being more and more the need to be more authentic, just the self, and it goes back to reconnecting with the deeper self. That's the source of it, to be authentic.
It's
And for
interesting.
that, you have to have a good inner parent.
Yes, yeah, for sure. It's
Yeah.
interesting, isn't it? Like it's all if you kind of look at how we've been evolving over the last 20 years or so with, that ability to have access to all of the things that are happening all over the world, whether they be good or
Mm-hmm.
bad or somewhere in
Yeah.
between. But and or sometimes you think, don't want to see all of the things that are happening everywhere. Like it seems pretty intense. But there's that it's kind of created this global community where
Mm-hmm.
we can also start to see the possibilities and other
Mm-hmm.
people
Yes.
that you talk about, that awakening, and
Yes.
that there's those possibilities of using these kind of places like podcasts, social media,
Mm-hmm.
for the greater good,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
get these messages
Yes.
out. It's kind of
Yes.
an interesting way that we're kind of evolving. It's almost
Mm-hmm.
like things are going weird, but
Mm-hmm.
actually, as a global community, we've got more access to information than ever that can
Yes.
help us to make
Yes.
those changes.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. There's another wow. Another wow moment. Okay. So, your book, let's get back to that. So, we've broken down the title and I love it. What is it? Is it how would you describe it? Is it a self-help manual? Does it give
Mm-hmm.
you the EFT processes? Like, what do we expect from your book?
Yes, so the book is intense. I can say that.
Okay.
So it's really packed with knowledge. And I know, I published this book first in Polish in 2021, so I already have some good feedback from Polish readers. And some of them go back 3, 5, even 7 times. One person when read the book 7 times because it's so packed that every time she read it, she uncovered something different that she didn't see the first, second, or fifth time. So it is packed. And uh, there are 20 EFT exercises attached kind of to the book. So when you read the book, there are places when it says EFT exercise and there's a title and you can do the EFT while you are reading the book. You don't have to, it's just optional. But if somebody knows EFT, they can use it. So it's not only the intellectual load, but when you tap those points and you touch those emotions, you can release also something while you're reading the book. And so it's intense. So it's for people who really are serious about learning about their inner self. And some people called it the manual and the instruction manual for the human being. That's somebody gave it the name.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. So, would you say that it's like a step by step? or is it like you can dip into different sections? Do you advise people to read the
And
whole thing at once? Like you said, it's pretty big, so might not be able to read it all in one hit, but
probably it would be good the first time, at least it would be good to read the whole thing from the beginning to the
yeah.
end, because if you take the book and start reading chapter 7th, you may be lost a little bit about what the inner child and inner parent structures are, because they are explained, let's say, in the chapter 3rd. So probably it will be good to read it first time. But when you want to go back to certain parts, you can because probably certain parts hit you more than other parts, and you may want to go back to those. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
To have all of that information inside of you, was
Yes.
it a relief to get it out on paper?
Yes. I mean, the book was reading itself in my head for a few years. And then when I finally sat down by my desk, it took me 3 months to write it. 3 months, because it was already there. So I just sat and
Wow,
yeah.
that's pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
That's pretty,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, that's impressive. And do you ever look back at it and think there are other things you want to add? There must be things that you that
In the book?
yeah.
Well, I open a folder on my desktop and it says book number 2. So so I'm not changing anything in that book. It's complete as it is, but yes, I have more and more insights, and even more probably for real seekers who really want to understand even more. I'm going to put it in the second book.
Right. What's
Mhm.
your hope for the book?
That that it will get into people's hands.
Yeah.
That really, that's the only thing. And I don't have any pressure or expectations, that there must be some kind of specific outcome. If only 2 people will read the book and it will change their lives, I'm totally satisfied. I mean, already more people read the book and felt changed, but I'm not saying that it must do anything. It's just there. And I'm saying that, when I was writing this book, I had this impression that there is some collective inner child, that it's not only the inner child in every one of us, but there is a collective inner child. And the collective inner child just took me by my, clothes, put me by the desk and said, right, I want it out. And it was just pouring and pouring and writing and pouring and writing. And that's how it felt. So whatever the book wants to do, whatever the collective inner child wants to do with the book, it's all out there. It's out of my hands. I have no expectations.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm.
We are coming close to the end of our hour, so I wonder, we want to get the book out there to everyone, so we're going to put links to that in the notes. Um, but just wonder, before we do say our farewells, is there anything else that you feel like you want to talk about? Like,
Hmm.
is there anything where you go, oh yeah, I wouldn't mind saying that? No pressure.
I didn't think about it, but let me think for 1 second.
Yep.
Mm. I was thinking about it recently that, well, we talk a lot about love and how love heals, and it's so needed in the world and everything. And yes, but I'm thinking that there is something even more deciding. It's the human will, because I encountered people who were surrounded by love, unconditional love, and they had opportunity to be healed, and they had opportunity to get better. And there was this one thing, the will.
Mm.
When will was not there, the love can't do anything. Really, because there's something so sacred about the human will, and the human will is not interfered by anything, by no gods or nothing else. It's just we and our will, and how we use it, that's what we will have. And then I even thought, I don't know if not everybody knows, I mean, probably most people know the Bible, but not everybody acknowledges it. But I thought about, the stories from the Bible when Jesus was walking on earth and healing people, and he had so many abilities. He could heal anything, as the message says in the Bible, and he always asked, "What can I do for you?" And he never did more. From Even if he could, he always did what he was asked to do. So there was this will. Yeah, and sometimes it's really hard, especially when we have people close to us and we see this, they suffer, and we want to help them, and they say no. That's the hardest, to respect that will. So yeah,
Yeah.
no, that's the lesson.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Mm-hmm.
really a really great way to end.
Mm-hmm.
Something along a similar note. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I can't remember exactly what it was that I heard, but it was something along the lines of like when someone tells you something about um, themselves,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
it's easy for us to kind of go into that I need to help you mode, or
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like just being heard could be
Mm-hmm.
enough. Like, yeah, exactly. Wait to be asked. Let them know
Yeah.
that you're there for them, but you don't
Mm-hmm.
have to like
Mm-hmm.
give them more than they've asked for.
Exactly.
They just want to be heard and acknowledged.
Yeah. Yeah. If I can add an example that just popped in my head, 2 years ago, my mom died. So she and my father lived in Poland, and she died. My father is still alive. And of course, they were married for X years. So it was a big trauma for him. And I mean, I'm in the US, he's in Poland, so he stayed alone. So it was not easy for him. And, when I called him once a week, he was sad, and he was saying, I miss your mom and everything. And I remember one time, when I just didn't try to say that everything will be okay. I didn't try to comfort him. I just said, you know what, Dad, but it's a tough situation to be in a position like you. It's totally okay to be sad, and
Mm,
to go through whatever you're going through. And just by acknowledging it, not trying to fix it or change it, he got so uplifted. His voice changed, he suddenly became more joyful just because of that,
mm,
And not, yeah, sometimes
yeah,
nothing else is needed. Yeah.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. What a perfect note to end on. Thank you so much,
Thank you very much.
Kasia Dodd. Let's just remind the listeners of the book. You are the dream of the universe, moving towards the inner adult as a further step in the evolution of self awareness. We're going to add all of your links into the show notes and get your book and this podcast out to as many people as we can. Thank you so much for joining me
Thank
today.
you.
I really appreciate your time, and it's been wonderful
Thank
to
you.
meet
It was
you.
a pleasure to meet you and talk about those things,
Yeah,
and I really enjoyed our hour.
yeah. Thank you so much. Bye
Thank
for
you.
now. Bye.
Bye.